This is Lodge Tales. I'm your host, Rod Williamson. Thanks for joining me as I travel down this path of strangeness. Here at Lodge Tales, what I want to create is a place where Native Americans can tell their ghost stories. Stories of the strange, paranormal, Bigfoot, UFOs, little people. Anything along those lines. Goat man, dog man, whatever there is out there is kind of what we want to do here. And it's a place just for natives to come and tell their their experiences. There there's really a void for that. It kind of don't exist. So what we're trying to do here at Lodge Tales is go ahead and create a platform where natives feel comfortable coming, where they can share. Because a lot of times the fact of the matter is we just ain't comfortable sharing with a lot of people that are outside our tribe. We maybe that's how it is for most people, just ain't comfortable around a lot of other different people. I have no idea, but that's kind of what I noticed happens. So you don't hear a lot of natives, telling stories or anything out there on the internet is as common. That they are out there, but they're hard to find. And what I wanted to do is create a place where we could all just freely share our stories about all the strange and paranormal stuff. And what I'm going to do is start on my reservation, the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana. And I'm going to interview friends, family, and we're just, go from there. Get all their stories in one place where we can hear them. Geez, it'll even be good for the kids to listen to their grandparents down the road. So those are my thoughts on it. But I'd like to talk a little bit about myself to begin this all off. I was born in Montana, raised on the res. You know, growing up, I was always brought around ceremonies, sweats. I'd participate at the Sundance. I wouldn't Sundance, but I'd there helping, getting the getting the materials to get just help whatever we needed to do. We would help, and I grew up like that, being around these people, these holy people, these in our traditional ways, and you hear so many ghost stories just being around all that. We in our tribe we talk about spirits just like anybody else talks about, geez, the baseball game. We we're open. We don't deny it. It's already to the point like we know they exist. There's no need to prove it. We're just trying to figure out what they want. And so that's kind of how we are. And very in touch with that spiritual side. Most natives are. You can pick out any random native and any random non-native and compare their, spiritual, what would I say, growth, I guess. And those natives are always going to be way up there. They're always going to be way up there. But so again, a little bit more about myself. That's how I grew up. I grew up around all that, and later on in life, well, I went to boarding school when I was a kid too in Browning. Then I went to another one in Oregon called Chemawa Indian School. Shout out to the Braves. So later on, I joined the military, right? Then I do all that. I served for 8 years in the Marines, the Army, and the National Guard. I was an infantryman in there. And I get done with that. I come back out here. I start working. I do flooring and whatnot. Lately, I've been wanting to. Well, at work, I listen to podcasts a lot, and I have a heck of a time finding podcasts where just natives are talking about their stories. So I thought, geez, I'll just create one. I have a good friend, I consider a friend. His name is Timothy Renner, and he's been guiding me through this process of how to start a podcast and what to do, the basics of getting it going. Well, here I am, and I'm getting it rolling, and we're making progress. So I really appreciate everybody coming in and trying to be willing to sit down and be interviewed and share their stories. I'm thankful for what they are willing to share. There are a lot of things we ain't willing to share, including myself, of our stories. There's just some things that don't need to be told. And so that's kind of where I'm at with all of it. The stories that can be told, I want to hear them. And stick with me as I go around. I'm gonna root out as many as I can. It's so exciting because we never get to share these stories a lot with the world because they're always so kept. Like you'll hear them at powwows at a fire. You hear about the Sundance at night at the fire. You hear them sitting around the sweat lodge. You hear them just sitting around houses. You hear them at Christmas, Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter. You'll hear. These are the things I want people to. I want to share this with the world, and I want people to be able to, well, get some good out of it. So that's my whole intent. Just a little taste of kind of what kind of stories we have here and what would be willing to share. One of my favorite ghost stories is this, and it's happened to me. So as a kid, I was at the old boarding school at Mission on the reservation. Mission is so let's describe this place. It sits in a valley. There's a river on one side and there's cliffs on the other. You got to go past this road and there's cliffs. And there's trees down in that little bottom where it's at because it's on the same floodplain as the river. Well, anyways, there were some old boarding schools there, a boys' dorm and a girls' dorm. The dorms ain't there anymore today as we speak. Just the church is there. There was a church there too, and this is the mission school where all the Blackfeet kids were sent to basically get their identity stripped away from them. Kind of a sad time in our history, but that school was there, and when I was a kid, I'd go play in those ruins. Well, it was more like a condemned building. It was still standing. It wasn't ruins yet. It was more like just a condemned building, and I'd go play in there. Well, one weekend I went to go play with my friend Joe, and shout out to Joe if you're out there. We had walked into that girls' dorm. There's a second floor up there. Well, as we went into the first area, I think it was like the dining area, because it was a big open area with a high ceiling, just rubble everywhere. I remember seeing like a breakfast bar looking thing, like a little pony wall, I guess, with a countertop on it. And to the right of that was this hallway, and it was dark, just total blackness. You couldn't see down that hallway, but everywhere else in that room's light. You can see just fine, but down that hallway, it's just so dark you couldn't see. And the light only shined in so far down that hallway from the opening there, so you were basically going into darkness when you walked down that hallway. So that's what we did. We were just exploring, and it was the only way up that we could see anyway. So we went down, and Joe was hanging on to my shirt in that dark hallway because it was scary, and I didn't mind him doing that. I felt pretty good that he was hanging on to me because I was scared too. I had my left hand against the wall, and we're walking down. There's rubble. We could hear crunching as we're walking, and I'm using my hand to feel in case there's a door or anything I can feel that we can get to. Eventually, my hand feels a corner, so we get to that corner, and I pull myself around it, and I look up, and there's light. You could see at the top of the stairs, so I go up to the top of the stairs, and Joe's still with me. By then, he kind of lets go once that light was there, and he's walking up beside me, and we go down the hallway because we could see more light once we get to the top. We don't want to go back down to that dark hallway. It's just too freaky down there. We don't want to go back down there, so we're looking toward that light. That's what we're naturally gravitating toward. And as we go down to the room, it's on the left side, and the ceiling's all caved in. The rest of the rooms are still up. There's about 10 rooms on one side, 10 on the other, maybe less. I couldn't tell down the other way. It's too dark, but we passed 3 or 4 by the time we got to that room that was already all broke out. That ceiling, part of it was caved in. And as we get in there, I look down and I see this little shed with a chimney kind of sticking out on the side of it. And there's a tree down on the ground, but I can see out that window. And if we did it right, we could jump to that little shed and from there hang drop. But from the window to the shed was about 6 feet, not bad. But from the shed to the ground was about 10 feet. It'll hurt your feet. So I kind of suspected it was going to do this. But as I was looking at the route we were going to take to get out there, because there's no way we're going back that way. And Joe was quiet the whole time. He just kind of walked by me, looked down at it, and then just jumped down off of that to that shed, to that rooftop of that shed, then down to the ground. And he was walking behind that tree, because that's kind of the natural path you gotta walk to come out and then go back over to the church. Well, he didn't come out from behind that tree, and I was hollering at him. I said, "Joe, did that sting your feet?" And he didn't answer. I thought, well, maybe he ran to the right where that would obstruct my view. I wouldn't be able to see where he went. I thought maybe he went around the building that way. So I was like, man, he ain't waiting for me. And I kind of got scared to stay up there. So I jumped down to that one, and I go, God, and it was bad, but not as bad as the next drop was gonna be because it stung my feet. Well, I get to my belly and I'm scooting backwards off it, and finally I'm hanging. I'm looking down. I still don't see Joe, and I let go. And I walk behind that tree looking for Joe. And as I walk behind that tree looking for him, Joe appears in that room we had just jumped out of, and he's hollering down at me, and he's saying, "Rod, did that sting your feet?" I just ran. There's no way I could stay there and take that. That was too creepy for me because Joe was already down there. Yet there he was up top. And so I ran. I just got spooked, and I ran back to that church, and I sat with my grandpa through the whole church. And I got really close to him, and I just stayed put, and I didn't say anything. I just sat right by him. I knew after church that, see, my grandpa would talk to Joe's folks. They'd visit for about 10-15 minutes after church each Sunday. Well, I knew Joe would want to talk to me about, I didn't want to talk about it. I was too scared. And finally he come, "What happened? Why'd you leave me?" And I said, "I didn't." He said, "You were with me the whole time. You grabbed my shirt and you walked with me all the way up those stairs. And when we got to that broke out room, you went ahead of me and jumped out. I was trying to follow you, and I was asking you if that stung your feet, but you didn't come out from behind that tree. So I jumped down because I didn't want to be left up there. And when I got down and I finally jumped down, I was looking for you. I walked by that tree looking for you. Just then I heard you say, 'Rod, did that sting your feet?' And that scared me because that's what I asked you." And he said, no, going down that hallway, I lost you. It was too dark. I lost you. By the time I got to the top and seen that room with the light and that broke out ceiling, because I didn't want to go back down that hallway either, I seen you jump down. I seen you come down, and like you were walking behind that tree, and that's why I asked you if it stung your feet. So see, that's one of mine that I'll share with you guys to start this whole podcast off. I have way more stories of just my own personal experiences. Now that story, that happened when I was in the 3rd grade. I remember that. So with more of these interviews coming out with a lot of my friends, you'll be in store for more. My father-in-law, he has a story about, battling a spirit while they were cutting wood one time. That's a really good one. Another one of my friends was a cop, and he could go on and on about his stories and his experiences as being a cop and the stuff he's seen. I have another buddy who just, man, he's seen so many spooky things in his life that just the stories that come out this guy will amaze you. They come out just like nothing. I mean, and yeah, so there's a lot of these people around that have these stories, and I'm gonna ask a few of them if we can get us going with this podcast. Well, without waiting any longer, let's go ahead and get into the show. And here we go. All right, our next guest on our show is actually my father-in-law, and he's from the same reservation as me. He's actually from a little just a creek over. He's from Badger Creek, and I'm from Temed. Anyways, it's my father-in-law, Darrell Bullshoe, and he's joining us for a few stories today. So go ahead, Darrell. Tell us about your ghost stories that you had when you were tree thinning, and just whatever. Just talk whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. This happened about around 87, 88. I was contracting tree thinning for the forestry. I was working in Little Belts. Would have been southeast of White Sulphur there. And, we cut for a week and finished up some units and was waiting to get get our units inspected so we could come on home and get paid for them. I was there that day waiting for the inspector to go through our units. I decided to walk up that top of that mountain that was there that day, or was camped below there, and found a trail that led up that way. So I started walking up there, and it was nice day, nice sunny day. Walked on up and got to the top there in the pines and stuff, and then right on top there was 3 graves. One on right at the top, and there's one about 50 feet below that, another one about 50 feet below that one. I didn't bother him or anything. I just walked by him and I noticed him, and took some kinnikinnick and I put it in a tree as a gift. I have nothing else. I have no tobacco or anything. I didn't bother. I just headed down. I heard somebody call, shout a name or something, but I couldn't really hear it that good. I started down to, I'd been to east side of that mountain. I went up on west side, southwest side. I went up. I went down, start down the east side. There was no trail there, but I just walked through that old growth timber, and that was a pretty scary walk too. I feel like something was watching you, or things were watching you as you went through that old growth timber. And I got down to the bottom, and I walked back up. I come out about 2 miles below our camp, and I walked back up the road, hit the road, and I walked back up, and didn't think nothing of it. Nothing happened. Got back up there. We sat around. The guy didn't show up to inspect us, so we figured he'd show up the next day. We just cleaned our saws, cleaned up the camp and stuff, and killed time, and then ate supper and went to bed. And it was a full moon out that night, and I was laying there on my cot. I was laying on the west side, and Woody Bearchild was there was just me and him cutting, and he was laying on the east side of that little tent, one of those little those tents that you just put up real fast. It wasn't very big, maybe about 10 by 10 tent.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in him. I don't know what woke me up. I went to sleep, but I woke up and I looked over at Woody's side, and I could see somebody walk through the shadow. See a shadow walk through on the outside that tent by Woody's. A human shadow walked by him, and they walked over, and that moonlight lit up everything. I mean, it was just really bright out, and I could see him walk over, and then our zipper was ripped on our tent, so we just had bobby pins in it to hold those doors closed.
Uh-huh.
And I was watching it because I could see that person outside, and see his shadow through that tent, and he stepped right through that tent doors. There's Indian. I don't know what tribe he's from or anything, but he was really had long hair, long braided hair. And he had on white buckskins with quilt down the arms and down the side of his legs. Even his moccasins had quill work in. He come in, and I didn't feel right. So I was just watching him. I knew he wasn't real, or just knew he wasn't real. So he looked at me. I was laying there, and I was kind of watching him. Then he looked at Woody, and he looked back at me, and then he looked at Woody, and I just had that feeling he was going to do something, and he jumped right from that doorway. He jumped, and he come down on me on that cot. When he did that, I grabbed his wrists, because I'd been told by some older people, elders, that you grab them and you hold them, and you don't own them, but you hold them there until daylight. If you can hold them or pull them into the light, it destroys anything they have, any kind of power, or anything they were trying to do to you. It'll destroy them. So I grabbed his wrists, and then he started trying to get away, and I could hold him, and he kept trying to get away, and I don't know how long it went on, but next thing I could feel it lightening up outside, and woke up, and I told Woody, oh, should have had a pretty bad experience last night. I was telling him about that, and I told him, well, he said, oh, yeah, and noticed that. He said, shit, he was bouncing about 2 feet off of that cot. Like something was lifting you up. And I told him I was holding that guy's wrists because I didn't want him to get away and come back and bother us or anything. I knew if I held him till the sun come up, the Creator who lightened up the sky, then he wouldn't have, nothing to do with us. He wouldn't be able to harm us or anything. And he said, yeah. He said, shit, it went on for about, he said about maybe an hour and 45 minutes. He said, oh, you just lift plumb off of that cot. And I told him I was hollering at you to wake me up so I could pull him into our world. Woody said, well, they say when somebody's having a nightmare, you're not supposed to wake them up. I told shit, I was really at you, Woody. He said, but it didn't sound what I was hollering his name, but he said it didn't sound like his name, like I was just kind of guttural and grunting or something. Yeah, he said that. But whatever it was, it never did come back. Whoever that person was, he never came back, and we cut down there for about another 4 years. Woody ended up moving away, and I ended up staying there and running the saw team down there for 2 more years. But yeah, that never did bother us, and we stayed in that same area. So that must have took care of it, just not being scared of him,
Yeah.
And I got that feeling that's how they get to you, is through fear. If you can overcome that fear and pull them into the light, or that was another thing I was told, you pull them out of their world. That's that dream, kind of that dream state.
Yeah.
And pull them yours, yeah. They won't have, you take away everything that they have, anything bad, their power, anything. You take that away from them. And, yeah, that's it. And
I remember you talk. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
I remember you talking one time, and you said if we use cedar can actually burn those bad ones.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. He said it's like a human getting hot water poured on them.
Oh.
That cedar has the same effect on a spirit that, like, it hurts them the same way as hot water being poured on us would be. That cedar, when it does that, that's what that old first elder said. Hey. That's what that cedar does to them. That pain's the same thing, but pain to them. That cedar, when you burn it and it touches them, or if they're around,
they have no choice but to head out.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, and that's where they say when you have bad dreams or something, or you feel like something's following you or around you, or, just around trying to harm or something, that you burn that. No, the way I was given in a dream was that I start with sweetgrass. Put that on a coal and then let that start burning. Then that old guy that came to me in that dream told me then I add sweet pine on top of that. And if you really need it, he said, don't use it all the time. He said, but if things are bad and you feel like you really need it, he said, put that cedar on top of your sweet pine last. He said, and that'll take care of whatever's around. He said, but most of the time that smudge of that sweetgrass and sweet pine will take care of things along with your prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah, to take care of things. But if you feel like it's close, something's gonna harm somebody around you, so then use that cedar. Use it sparingly, I guess is what he meant. Really old guy in my dream. Oh, he just had lines on his face. He was so old. Yeah, I'll tell you that one later on.
About that man.
Dream there. Yeah.
That guy that came to you in that tent when you had to battle with him, his you said he had quill work all over, just so everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't beads. It wasn't beads. It was dyed quill. What it looked like to me was dyed quills on his buckskin suit, and his suit was just white.
Oh.
Like white tanned deer hide or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be deer hide because elk, I know when you tan it, it's brown. Yeah. So it had to be deer hide, tanned deer hide, but yeah. And it was if I can remember, if I remember right, it wasn't cut. Like the later years, they cut those stylish, kind of like a coat. They cut the bottom of the hide square around them.
Uh-huh.
This guy's hides were still like whole.
Oh.
Yeah, like you just like whole. His hides were still weren't cut or anything. They were just whole, and he's from what I can remember of it. These leggings. He had leggings, but they were fringed. They were white. Even these moccasins were white. I was thinking, he must have been somebody pretty thought of or something to be. Because I imagine, what I thought was that, they come back and what they're buried, and if you run into them in this side, that must have been his suit he was buried in up there. Yeah, it was that, and he must have been well thought of, whoever. I don't know why he come pick on me.
Yeah, that's strange. I wonder why he did that. But the quill work is what really, really fascinates me, because if nobody knows that quill work was what they used before beads came. I mean, they imagine they made beads every now and then or traded for them back in those days. But for the most part, our tribe up here was quill work. And not only our tribe, but the surrounding tribes in this area, the northwestern, the Rockies. So just so people realize, like, what he's talking about is a really old person, that spirit that came. Jeez.
Yeah, he that had to be. And, another thing, too, he was buried. Now, I know some tribes did that. I know we did it not off and on,
Mm-hmm.
Mostly we used those scaffolds. I never really got around curious enough to ask, if we always buried people sometimes, or if we just used scaffolds all the time.
Probably depends on the area, you think? Like if they're out in the plains, they might want to bury them. If they're close to the mountains, they might want to put them up.
Yeah. Well, this was that just had to be. Where those are, there's a lot of pines. I imagine it's always been pines. Well, maybe at one time it was, bare on that mountain top.
Yeah.
Long ago.
Could just be that's just the way they buried them that at that time too. For whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, I never did go back. Never was curious enough to go back up there.
Jeez.
Stayed the hell away from there.
The other story that you tell I like hearing too, that one where you took those that college, This group of college students back in the mountains, and you were their cook, kind of camp crew, and all that, and you had a dream about those little people up there.
Oh, that yeah. I was cooking for them, and we went up there, and I think it was our last night up there. We stayed up there, I think 4 days
Mm-hmm.
at college, and I just went up to cook and take care of camp for them, and they paid me. But that last night up there was I was sleeping by those trees. A lot of them was sleeping along those pines at that Forks campground, and that's what and towards the middle of the night I could hear like laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Really, people when they laugh kind of quiet. And I sat up in my sleeping bag and I was looking around, and everybody was sleeping. And I got to look, sat there, and I got turned in my head, and I could see those little people, those little Indians, just natives. They were just nothing wrong with them. They were just small.
But they were proportionate, right? Just shrunk.
Yeah, maybe 2.5 feet tall.
Uh-huh.
And they were in age groups. There was some little kids, and then there was some medium age grown-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what they were doing, I was watching them, and they were going around all those guys that were sleeping. They'd pick up things that were laying by them. This one come over, and he just kind of watched me. He must have knew I was awake or watching him, because he just kind of come up slow and was looking at me, and then he looked around where I was sleeping, and he said he told me, "You know who we are?" And I said, "Yeah, I've heard stories of you guys. Good stories of you. You're, what we call little people." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you see these pines?" And I told him, "Yeah." He said, "Each one of them, we live in them. Each one of them has one of us." He said, "And this is the bigger the pine, the older we are that live in them."
Hmm.
So that we've been around that long. He said, "You'll be back up here. You'll be back through." He said, "You see picked up my spurs," and he said, "You see these?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Tomorrow you're going to lose this." And he said, I had silver dollars for rowels, that pure silver, what is it, 999.99.
Mm-hmm.
I had on for my spurs, those because my big horse I used to ride, he never liked rowels, so I had to go to those coins. That's the only way he'd come up to me. Otherwise, if I had spurs with rowels, he'd just run away from me. So that's why I start training horses with just those coins on those rowels.
Ooh.
But yeah, he said, "You're going to lose this tomorrow." And looking at it, and I put it down. And I just went back to sleep. And the next day, I never thought of it, and it didn't bother me, because we got to packing up and stuff, and those horses were bucking around, those pack horses.
Yeah.
We got those, loading them up, me and Terry Taxi, and they got to bucking around, and I didn't think of it, and I started out, and then I telling Rusty and them about that dream, and Rusty Taxi and them that dream, and coming down, and I brought him out, and I got home, and sure enough, I looked down, my rowel was gone.
Hmm.
It was, I had one on my spur, one on I think it was my right side that I lost. My left side I still had on, that matching towel. I lost that right one. I don't know where I lost to that. I had them for years, at least 2-3 years I had those rowels on it. I never worried about losing him because I'd always tap that shank that goes in him, that holds him in there. I'd always tap it and flatten it out. Yeah, that was a good one. That dream, or whatever it was.
Yeah, those little people. Didn't that other time when you, Rusty Vernwald, and Ann were going to town and you guys seen that red Bigfoot?
Oh yeah, my Cocoa Bogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was running Rusty back, and he was helping me cut hay. And I was hired him, and he's helping me run that machinery down there. And we're just taking him back in. We came up, we fed him supper here, and then we took him back in. It was still just about dark when you have to put your lights on. And we going by Coco's, just past his before you get to Evans Creek there, that little creek there. I seen that thing standing alongside that road, and it looked like it had its forearm on that reflector. There was a reflector on the road, and what I seen was what I thought it was I thought it was just a red-faced cinnamon bear, and there's another car coming around that turn there, and I just moved out to the center of the road so I could get around it, and then I was more concentrated on that car, and then half attention on that. I thought it was a bear because I thought if it jumped down and ran in front of us, I was going to hit it. It was in a van, and I just went around it, but what I seen was like the hair was really long on its chest. I could actually see it blowing. Like, that moving it.
Yeah.
And it was long, and I didn't really dawn on me to look at it really close, because I just thought, well, it's a bear, it's a red-faced bear, and but Ann seen it really good, and she said it didn't have a bear's snout. She said it more like a ape or something, I guess you'd say. Her and Rusty both agreed on that part. And she's seen it, she had to be, 15 feet from it up. Because I didn't go all the way over. I just pulled out on that center line, kind of straddled that center line, got around it. And then Rusty said he turned and he looked back, and it walked upright across the road there, heading towards the mountains there. Across the road and headed up towards those mountains there. But man, I always kick myself in the ass for not paying more attention, slowing down and looking at it. But you see so many animals around here. You just kind of take it for granted. What you're seeing is what you think you're seeing. If they're around here, well, after that, Glenn Horn's seen it over here. He'd walk this road because he's a heart. The doctors told him to walk a lot, so he'd walk down. And first time he seen it, it was just across this road here from where we stayed at Heavy Gun House, that log house back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was looking out of that brush at him.
Ooh.
And he described it the same way as Ann and Rusty described it. Kind of like it had like eight features. And he said he could see it because it was kind of, well, I imagine upper part of its body was the way I understood it was. He's seen looking out that brush at him. And then I think it was a couple days later. He used to walk all the way down to where that they call that Little Durham.
Yeah.
Turn off. Moss ribs, that little cut across. He went that far, and then he turned around and he started back up, and he said when he come over that little flat there, before you get to this T over here on this highway, he looked out, and it was pacing him out in that flat.
Ooh.
That's it. He said he got a good look at it, and that's what it was walking upright. because there's no trees or anything around it. But when Ann started telling him that story of that, and then he started telling her what he's seen, and he just quit walking down that way. He wouldn't walk down there anymore. He just started walking these in these little circles around here. Up at that senior citizens, that little loop, and then
Yeah.
he come down here, walk this loop by that, runs up from here to Skunk Village, and then hooks over to highway and back. That's where he walks now. But he just quit walking. He said after he seen it out in that flat. That first time, he said, I thought it might have been a bear, kind of standing up looking at me. He said, but after I seen it out in that flat, he said, I'm not going down there no more.
Oh, I don't blame him.
Yeah. Seems like, whatever they're around, whatever they are.
What do you think they are, though?
I don't know. They say they used to protect you when you was out fasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that's what wasn't their job, but that's what they do. They'd move like any thing around you, wild game or something, bears, I guess, and stuff. They'd move them out of keep them away from you while you was fasting.
That's a lot, when you think about that, that has a lot to do with intent. People are going out there in a good way, and
Yeah.
well, because of that, look what's happened when they're out there fasting and, well, being respectful,
Yeah. Letting things out rather than keeping them in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Geez, I think honestly, I think they're an old, what they call a relic hominid, I think is a phrase I heard about that. They're an old race, from the old world before the flood. And
Yeah.
I think they're, because Clifton says that his grandpa Clarence, would tell him some of the names that they'd call him. One of them was the Nowhere People. And Clifford, your brother, was saying he heard one of those old guys call him just simply don't know where they come from. That was another name for them. But yeah, I wonder about them. Well, so if they're that old and then they live out in nature like that, I've always kind of, since I've thought about this a little more later in my life, I've thought they have medicine, like how those really powerful holy people do. Because, I mean, I don't know how they get those gifts. Maybe I imagine it's the same way that our people do. They go seek them out or something, and they.
Yeah.
I almost imagine, if you live that clean, I guess, with nature, and you're that respectful, then I think a lot of that stuff's easier to come toward you. Maybe acquire it. Who knows? But I think about it like those old Indians and how they lived with, respect with everything. Well, when they see you doing that still, I think they respect that, and they.
Yeah.
But, there's stories out there where, like, somebody's seen one 50 miles away, ran home, was scared, drove home as fast as he could, gets home, and in his yard, that damn thing's standing there, too. They don't know how to explain those things. Whereas in our way, we do. That, that, I don't know if you ever heard those stories of Sun Calf, but he was that guy in Canada where those spirits took pity on him when he hid in that death lodge and they gave him gifts. There was even a white man's spirit gave him medicine. They say in that story he gave him a tobacco twist and he was to spit on any lock that he didn't want to, be locked into, and it would open up for him. Well,
okay, yeah.
Remember the other spirit gave him that gift where he could travel really fast? I remember when he finally broke out of that jail, he didn't want to stay there no more, so he spit on those locks, he was going over that hill, and those guys on horseback chased him. Well, as soon as they got over that hill, they seen him walk over it, cripes all the way across that valley, he was already going over that next hill.
Is he the one that walked on those moonbeams?
I'm not sure if he did. I don't remember anything like that, but
yeah, there's a story about one of them that could do that. could walk on those moonbeams.
Oh, and the beams of
Travel
light from the moon?
from beams of light from the moon. You could walk on it.
I remember hearing something about that, but
You know, Virgil knows that story. Clifford might know it too. But I'm
I'll,
pretty sure Virgil knows it.
geez, I'll have to
But
ask him.
yeah,
How about that, any of those, kind of strange things that happened down at that lake, down at Four-Horn Lake?
when that scared Dan.
Oh, there's that one. Then there's,
And I took that, went down there because well, wherever I was, those Sweetepees told me to feed them. They'd watch over not only me, but my family and extended family and everything. And whenever I can, they said, it don't matter where you feed us, as long as it's water. They said, we're in all of them. Wherever there's water, even a little puddle, they said, we're in them. That's what I did. That lake was really choppy and the waves were blowing to the shore. I put that plate together. I put it on like some sticks and made like a little raft.
mhm.
And I put it out there and I pushed it the little ways just to get it out into that. And just like that, water calmed around it about 10 feet in a circle. And it just took that plate out into those waves, all the way far away out in there. That, you know, to me, that was them accepting a gift, but well, you'd say it's more of a, like, you know, they say that Catholics took all that away from us, priests and stuff, beating our parents and stuff. But like with me, I've always been kind of like close to that. But she got scared of it because it was just something that shouldn't happen. You know, they shouldn't. That food shouldn't have went out, and it should have just been blown right back to shore. But it didn't. It calmed right around it, and it took that plate out. And she wanted to get out there, so yeah, we would picnic out in Blacktail that time. Other one that my grandpa talks about, Bullshoe. When he was a young man, he said he was out there on the east side, that east coulee running down from Four-Horn. It runs east, and that's where he spotted some antelope, and they just had to happen around 1840, somewhere around there, maybe earlier, because he was young when he did it. But he seen those antelope laying up in one of those little berry bushes, and he went up. He was going to shoot one to try to get around close enough to shoot him. So he must have had a bow or using a bow, because he said he got around back though. And then his horse started acting up, rearing up and like trying to get away. And he didn't know why it was acting like that, so he tied it to a sagebrush. You know, you can't pull them out. The sagebrush are pretty tough. But he tied it to a sagebrush, and he got up and he got up on top of that little cut where those antelope were below him. But when he looked across, they were running up the other side of the north side of that coulee, northeast side. They were running up and heading towards what we call Hamilton now, Hamilton Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
They were running up that way, and when he looked down, he said he seen, as my dad told me, he said it looked like, it moved like a caterpillar, like a giant caterpillar. He said it didn't slither, but it humped and pushed itself. the way a caterpillar will move,
Oh.
but it was big, and I never, never asked him, kind of, if he ever, they ever told him how long it was or anything, or, but what it did was it went up, and this was before there was, Forehorn Lake was just a natural lake there, and it went up and it went into the lake, and went up and swam out to where it goes that bank is, that big bank is there, and it said it went straight down into the water, and it never resurfaced. So I don't know what how long he waited there or anything to see it. But yeah, that story's been in family for, I don't know, since he's seen it. I guess it was passed on to my Grandpa Joe. My Grandpa Joe passed it on to my dad. My dad passed it on down to us.
Jeez.
Used to like those. When you sit around in the evening after we got too separated, start telling us those stories like that of all those medicine men and stuff that were around it, and things that they seen at that lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say they'd see those water dogs out there. Watch them. Yeah, and this was back in the 1800s, early 1900s. They'd watch. They'd see those, and my mom said the last time they seen anything in there had to be about 1940. Yeah, I can't remember who she said they were going through there, but they were on a wagon. They went down around this side. They've been on the west side of Forehorn. And they said there was something. There's reeds out there. Those reeds that grow in the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was they seen something laying in there, and they thought it was a dead cow or something bloated. So they just went down. They said they went down. I think they went down the whole agency. Then they coming back up. It said whatever it was moving along the edge of that lake. It'd be on the west side. It wouldn't where the reeds were below that greenhouses now. That was below there. That was all reeds. It came out of there and it went around that corner going south along the edge. And she said that's the last time that she can remember that anybody ever seen anything in it. They thought it was a dead cow, but when it was moving, it wouldn't. There's nothing in that lake that can move like that. No carcass won't move.
Yeah.
It'll just stay there in one place because that lake don't move in that. But yeah, whatever it was, she said that's the last time that she can remember ever hearing of anybody seeing anything in there. It's a good. People get scared of it. That feeling it gives you out there, but I don't know. Maybe being raised around it, I don't fear it or feel any animosity coming from it or anything.
Yeah. That story that you told about my grandpa there too, about Owl Child. That one, I think about that one a lot too.
Yeah, he he's lived down there, and my mom's the one that told me this story, and she said that there's an old guy that stays that's in the lake, but he'll send out a kid, a young kid to talk to people if he's got something to say to them. And he said he sent that kid out, and the Owl Child just bought a new hat. Yeah, kid came out, and came to Owl Child in his dream and told him that, that old guy in that lake really likes your hat. And, said if you give it to him, just take it down to the edge and throw it in there, and he'll accept it. Old Child told him, no, that's my hat. You tell him he wants a hat, he can get his own hat. Later, I think it might have been a year or so later, he'd just got through butchering a cow, and he had his hide hanging over his corral.
Yeah.
Cow hide. That kid came out again that night and told him he's giving you another chance. He said if you've been here a long time, he said you want to he'll watch over you and stuff. And he said, but he wants that hide, and I wouldn't give him that hide. Same thing, he said, take it down to the edge of the water, throw it in there, and you'll see him accept it. And he said, no. So my mom told me, said about later on that year, he was hauling logs. I don't know if they're building houses or what, log house.
Mm-hmm.
But his wagon tipped with him, and those logs rolled on him. That's why they said, well, those old people said that, was because he didn't listen to that guy, that old guy in that lake. But it's, if you're out there, you could feel in the evenings, I feel, with me, I just feel content. But other people don't like, Ann's sister Karen never liked it. She said it felt too odd out there. And it's just, she could actually feel like something was around in the lake. She did go out there to fish every now and then, she said, but they never went out there a lot.
Yeah, Amber won't go. Your daughter, my wife, Amber won't go out there. I asked her, I said, well, if I ever got a boat and we went out there to fish, would you fish with me out there? Oh, no. She said, and then I finally kind of talked to her a little more, maybe during the day. Yeah. Amber don't like that lake either. Well, she don't mind going out there. We fish out there, in that reservoir with everybody else, but she just don't want to swim in it, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Different people feel different about it.
Yeah. Like me, I don't feel no way about it either. I'm really curious. I'd like to go out there on a boat.
Yeah, I went out there a couple times on a raft, or one of them rubber rafts.
Yeah, was that scary?
And that damn John was small, and he be careful when you get in here now. Geez, he jumped in there and he kicked one of those where you air them up.
Mm-hmm.
Kicked those out, and me, Blue, and him were out there, and we started getting out there, and I said, hey, what's wrong with this raft? That damn John, when he got in, he kicked that nipple out of there. That raft started airing down. Holy shit, was really paddling. That John, I don't know, he was doing something when I took him to fishing with us or hunting with us. I just have to watch him all the time after that.
I remember hearing a story a while back, but I just remember bits of it. Maybe you know something about it. Your Uncle Ray was busting holes in the ice for those cows, the water holes. And busted down, and he ended up wounding or killing one of those water people. Do you remember something like that?
No,
so,
first time I heard it.
Yeah, so Clifton was telling me, he said, yeah, that he was over there and he was digging in the, those holes like that, and I guess he, with that shovel or that pick, whatever he had, he hit it in the head, or if I remember right, he hit it in the head, and it was laying in that ice, just, it was kind of like the water wasn't really deep, but he was laying in between those rocks and that ice, just laying there, and he wouldn't move anymore. Well, Ray, I guess he went and got Leo, your dad, and I guess they went down there and to show him what he did. I guess he was kind of upset and got down there, and it was gone. And I guess Leo told him, well, they just took their own. Don't worry, it was an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was gone. That water person was gone.
It's the first time I heard that.
I wonder what you ever hear the other people, they talk about mermaids. Gee, I wonder if they're talking about Sweetapes and Okeetapeeks, the water people.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what they're, like...
Maybe, yeah, because, what, different people, different ethnic groups have a different name for everything.
Yeah.
But usually they're the same. Basically, they're the same thing. To some people, they're bad. To others, they're good. Indifferent or something. But yeah, it kind of depends on where you're from, I guess.
Yeah, when you think about it, that's probably a really, well, there's more water on this world than anything else. Of course, there's going to be a lot of those spirits around,
Yeah.
That really makes me wonder about those water people. See, because people don't even know about water dogs, those water spirits, those water people. I don't even know about, a lot of people don't know about those. When I was a kid, they were telling us that Buster Yellow Kidney and them, they were all telling us, stay at that creek down there. We didn't do this ceremony. They were gonna do I don't know what they were doing down there, cause there was something bad that got in that water, and they didn't have they had it planned to cleanse it, but they didn't get to get down there yet that summer. And my grandpa and them, they told us all to stay at that water. Well, my cousin had lived down at that Potts house, so I walked the creek all the way down to below their house, then I walked up to their house and got my cousin. Then we walked back down, then up to this green hole that we were swimming. That's about in the middle of our houses. And anyways, we were swimming in there. Well, they didn't tell us we could go back down there yet, but geez, I had already been up at the house for a week. I didn't want to wait any longer. I want to go back to the water. So I went and got her, and it was all right. I was taking tobacco, and I was offering when I crossed the when I crossed the river. But I got all the way down there, and we swam. I jumped in first in that green hole, and I come up, and there's this little bank I was standing on. It had that wire around it. You know how they make false banks? This one kind of dislodged and rolled kind of halfway in the middle of the river, and it created a big green hole in there because that water was how it was running over it. And I jumped off of that. I was about up to my knees in the water, and I was standing on that thing, and I dove into the green hole. Come up. Priscilla jumps in after me, and I went back up to that bank to see what I don't know, just to watch, maybe grab her hand and help her up. She was just reaching for my hand. I could see that sunlight in her eyes. And then I heard her scream under the water. And I seen her face just get scared, and she start going back down. So I reached further. I was almost falling off that little bank into that green hole with her, and I reached down. I just barely grabbed her, and I pulled her up. She was still screaming that whole way until she come out. Something grabbed me. And I didn't know what to do. I pulled her off. We went to the bank, and she was pulling up her right ankle. Look, and there was a handprint on it. Like a human handprint, like somebody really grabbed her hard.
Yeah.
And it was yanking her under it. Well, they'd warned us, there was something down there not to go play, but, well, kids being kids,
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is those, that water spirits. Those are there.
Yeah, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming in shapes and, different shapes, sizes. Kind of depends on what they want to show you.
Amber said when she seen one of those water dogs, it looked like about the size of a calf, and it had webbed feet. She said it would just run right on top of that water.
Oh.
Wouldn't sink.
That caught one up, or I don't know how should I remember that story that Me and this was about 15 years ago, or so maybe a little longer. But she said she caught one up here by either Mittens. Yeah, I think it was Mittens Lake. Caught like a little hairy thing like that.
Oh,
That's what she called water dog. She said, but she didn't want to keep it. She put it back in that water. And she said that's what it did. It kind of barked at her, and then it just went down. It, Ann knows who that woman was. She was telling Ann that story.
well, let's end there, huh, Darrell? Maybe we'll hit it again if we refresh.
Yeah. All right.
Well, geez, thanks for all the stories. We'll be sure and get this up. I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy this.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, Darrell.
Yeah, you betcha.
Well, if you like what we do here at Lodge Tales, please consider donating or becoming a member over on Patreon. We'll have one member episode a month there. And what I plan on doing is, well, I hope to get more than, at least a couple people there for one interview. And we'll all three of us go around with it. Something like that, or we'll figure it out. But either way, we're going to have a bonus episode every month for members only. And if you are Native American and you have anything along the paranormal that you want to share, email me at lodgetales@gmail.com. Alright, well, that does it for the show. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.